This week on the bonus round, we're in Las Vegas at the 2015 D.I.C.E Summit. I'm joined by Gearbox Software's Randy Pitchford, Alex Rogopoulos from Harmonix, and the director of USC Games, Tracy Fullerton. Hey guys, welcome to an all-new bonus round here on GameTrailers. I am Jeff Keighley here in Las Vegas on a big stage at the D.I.C.E Summit. We're going to get to what that is all about, but first of all, want to introduce three great panelists for this edition of the bonus round. First of all, we've got Tracy, who's the director of USC Games, the #1 games program in the nation. I'm a proud USC alum, so great to have you with us, Tracy.
All right, go
we've got Randy, as everyone knows, from Gearbox, and Alex from Harmonix. Guys, great to have you here. So D.I.C.E, we are here. We see the logos everywhere. This is not the Battlefield studio. We're not in there. That's another D.I.C.E in Stockholm. But tell us, D.I.C.E, I've been coming to D.I.C.E for over a decade. For people watching this, they may not really be familiar with what this is. It's kind of it's a really cool conference, but maybe, Tracy, tell us, why do you come to D.I.C.E? What is D.I.C.E all about?
Well, you know, actually I've been coming to D.I.C.E since 2003, and you know, D.I.C.E is a celebration, really. Right. I think it's a celebration, and it's a chance for the Interactive Academy and all of the folks who belong to the industry to come together and really think about what's been done, the great things that have been done in the past year, and talk about what's going to happen in the next year. Right.
Now, there are a lot of great talks that happen. You can probably watch them online. I think they're posted afterwards,
yeah.
But people are on stage. Sometimes they're case studies talking about trends in gaming. Sometimes people are throwing out crazy, wild ideas. Over the years, there have been some controversial talks. There have been some huge talks, like one year J.J. Abrams and Gabe Newell got on stage to talk about the differences in storytelling between games and movies. Randy, you've come to many D.I.C.Es. Do you have any sort of favorite memories, or what does this conference mean to you? You go to a lot of conferences.
I love this. This is probably, D.I.C.E is probably my favorite conference of all the things that I do throughout the year, because it's really an opportunity for a lot of the drivers of the industry to get together in a more intimate setting. You know, a lot of the other shows are either wide trade show, or you're really trying to sell a product, or it's a consumer show where, you know, you've got to have your, you know, customer face on. Right. Or, you know, GDC is just thousands and thousands and thousands of young folks that are trying to get into the industry more than any other constituent there. This is a show where the drivers of the industry get together, and we really try to think ahead as well as reflect on where we've been and what lessons we can learn from that. And you know, I've been coming to D.I.C.E for over a decade, and a lot of the people that attend the show are, you know, we've all kind of grown up in the industry together. So in many ways, it feels like a family reunion, and it's a lot of fun to share our experiences together. And you know, every couple of years, we'll get a chance and share things we've learned, and then we'll enjoy the other folks. There's been so many great talks over the years.
Now, Alex, you've been coming as well for many years, and it's, you know, this is not something that's open to the public, so it is kind of more of a business conference, I guess. But there's also a lot of great designers who are here. I mean, do you come here to be inspired as well?
I do. Like Randy, this is my favorite conference in the industry by far. You know, GDC is about the craft of making games, but very trade focused, and E3 is kind of a circus, just about making a lot of noise about your game or selling to retail. And this is the thing that's really special about D.I.C.E is that it's a very thoughtful conference, where, as Randy said, you have senior creative personnel from the industry, senior publishing and business personnel from the industry, all coming together and talking about experiences and doing a lot of kind of collective navel-gazing about what's going on in the industry and where it's headed. And it's one of the only events that I can think of in the industry where this particular mix of people come together to share experiences and think deep thoughts about the future of this business.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about sort of the state of the industry, where we're at here at D.I.C.E. Tracy, you're going to be on stage here talking about games and you know, your perspective on it. You have an interesting point of view, having, you know, seen a lot of these young creatives when they come through the halls of USC. I remember being back. We were talking about it in like 2006 when like Genova and Kelly were there, like working on Cloud before they had, you know, even come up with the, you know, Flow and Flower and you know, Journey. I mean, tell me from the perspective of students, I mean, how do people feel about the gaming industry right now? Is it as hot as ever? Or?
I think it's hotter. I think that, you know, what I'm going to talk about and what I see in the eyes of the students in the program is people are excited because the vistas are so broad. Yeah. And you know, what you see today is games are becoming part of a wider digital entertainment spectrum. And it's, you know, I think we're very close to a time when there's not going to be anyone that you talk to who will call themselves a non-gamer. Right. Everyone plays something. And what that means is there's a tremendous amount of possibilities to make games for all of those new markets, yeah. on all those new platforms, for all those new situations of play. And the students that we've got coming in through the program, that's what they want to do. You know, they want to make games for all these new situations and all these new platforms.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, now you look at the rise of kind of mobile and iOS. We're just, you know, watching the Super Bowl, and there were like all these iOS games, advertising in a big way. It's sort of fascinating to see where that market's going. And then, you know, you have the traditional console space that, you know, Randy, you guys know really well at Gearbox, which is, you know, roaring ahead with these new next-gen boxes and PCs doing well. When you look at sort of the state of the industry right now, having come to D.I.C.E for so many years, how does this year feel to you compared to, you know, 5-7 years ago?
It's really exciting. I think that more people are being entertained with interactive, you know, digital entertainment than ever in history. And we know that even though we're reaching more people, when I say we, I'm saying collectively the industry is reaching more people than it's ever reached before, we know that we're not even close to being saturated. There's a good, at least one full generation, probably two, where most people in the generation don't play any games, right? They became adults before games even existed. Yeah. And meanwhile, you have a huge percentage of the world that still has the lights off, right? They haven't quite joined us in the information age yet. But technology is advancing to let more and more of the world become civilized, and every new person plays video games. Right. And you know, sadly, the old people will eventually leave us, right. And so everyone on the planet will at some point be a gamer, and we will reach saturation at some point. And until then, growth is just going to continue to be surprising. Right. We're going to reach more and more people every single year.
And Alex, you know, games are going to sort of, you know, the definition of what is a game is sort of evolving. You guys over the years have done a lot, I think, to push games in new directions with sort of, you know, obviously the music and rhythm genres and kind of thinking of where games can go. When you and Harmonix look at the gaming space right now, I mean, I imagine it's sort of even more exciting than it has been before, because now there are just so many different ways people can experience, you know, music and games.
Well, that's certainly true. I mean, as Randy said, the size of the market that you can reach with games and the variegation of that market and the nature of the market is just exploding so fast that the opportunity is crazy. But there's a flip side to that, which is that the barriers to entry in this industry have also become so low. Right. I mean, maybe it was like that 30 years ago, but in recent decades, you know, there were significant barriers to entry to get into this business and make content for that market. And now, like any one or three or four people, you know, with, you know, platform, you know, engines like Unity and whatnot, like anyone can make games. And as a result, hundreds of thousands of new games are being made every year. And on the one hand, it's incredible from like a creative resources standpoint. Yeah. There's never been a moment like this in history where hundreds of thousands or like millions of people can be making games at one time. Yeah. But the flip side is, in terms of the business, of having a sustainable business and being able to feed yourself or your employees making games, this ocean of possible entertainment experiences creates real challenges for this business as we try to figure out what the next 10 years are going to look like.
I think it's a great point, because I even now, you know, you go on Steam and it's like there are all these new indie games that I had no idea this even existed, but isn't this cool? I mean, there's a discovery problem too, because there's so much interesting content being made in the industry. I mean, Tracy, you probably see this with a lot of the students. That they come in, you know, wet behind the ears, I can't wait to make my iPhone game, and it's like they make it, and I'm sure there's sometimes disappointment where they probably make something really cool, but it doesn't find an audience.
Many of them don't find audiences, but you know, I think that the sort of silver lining to the fact that there's so much content out there and that the barriers are so low is that if you are making a great game and you are a small team and you find your market, it's all yours. You know, if you look at someone like, for example, Asher Vollmer and Threes, you know, who's nominated for best mobile game here at D.I.C.E. You know, that's 3 guys. That's 3 guys, and that's a Unity product, you know, made on Unity, and that you know, became viral, and they own everything on that, right? So that's a beautiful thing. It's one in a million, because there's a sea of stuff out there that isn't great. But for the folks who are making great games, who can get to the audience, it's a tremendous time.
It is.
Yeah.
Randy, you were at PAX South a couple weeks ago and said, hey, we're making New Borderlands, come join us, work with us. I mean, you know, there's lots of independent folks, as Alex said, that can make their own little game, make their own little business. Running a bigger studio, I mean, is it harder to recruit talent now because there's so many options? Or, I mean, I'm sure people love to work on big franchises, but how do you sort of, you know, play in this world where it's like there's so many different possibilities?
It is a challenge to recruit, not because people don't want to come join us, but to find the right fits, right? Yeah. To make content like we make takes a team that is really excited to work with one another, and it's so much about the culture of the group. And you know, it's such an interesting thing, though. In our case, sometimes we just can't create enough stuff for our audiences. People are screaming and angry at us because we're not producing quickly enough. Right. And if I'm going to adapt to that problem, I'm going to need help. So I put the call out, hey, who else out there? And I'm hoping for a couple of things to result from that call out. I'm hoping that some people that are in the industry that might know about us or might be interested in working on our games but didn't realize that we'd be open to that, that they might introduce themselves to me. I'm also hoping that there's some new people that are you know, ready to join the industry that we might discover through this effort. Yeah. I am absolutely convinced that the very best game developers, the best artists, designers, and programmers a decade from now aren't even in the industry today. Right. And I'd like to discover some of that talent and invite them to have an opportunity to work on a massive, hyper-relevant effort like what the next Borderlands game could be.
Well, I remember, you know, back in even the 90s, it was sort of like people were starting to make mods for games at home, and that was sort of how you would recruit. And now it's like, it seems like, you know, there are programs like USC, or there's, you know, interesting iOS games. Someone can program or make something, as Alex said, and just show it. When you know, you guys, I'm sure, Alex, when you're interviewing people, a lot of them probably come in with, here's the game I made, right? Yeah,
it does happen, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So Alex, when you look at sort of the state of the industry, and you know, we talk a lot about sort of the big and the small, you know, Harmonix has been an interesting company as you sort of have evolved over the years, and I think people have been kind of curious about where you guys are going to go next. When you look at sort of the industry, what excites you about sort of where, you know, where games can go next?
Well, I mean, that's a huge open-ended question, right? But
you guys have been known for doing a lot in the music sort of space.
Sure, I mean, music is what we're about, and so on some level, always what we're seeking is the next way that we can utilize gameplay to amplify the emotional power of music in some way. And we've done that, you know, in some cases successfully in the past, in some cases less successfully, but that's that's at the core of everything that we try to do. Yeah. In terms of new frontiers, I think it's, you know, right at this moment in the industry, it's impossible to have a conversation about innovation without talking about VR and augmented reality, just because the nature of those media are so poorly understood, and it's so new and so different from everything we think we know now about making games that it's going to take, I don't know, it's the sort of thing where it's like 10 years from now we'll be starting to really figure out how to make games for those media. So I think that, you know, for developers who have an appetite for doing fundamentally new things, it's like a wide open playing field in that space for quite some time.
You're right. I mean, VR definitely has been a hot topic. I'm sure we'll be here at D.I.C.E, and you know, the demos only get better and better.
I hope it doesn't happen too fast. I'm still trying to figure out how to make games with the medium we have.
Well, and that's the big question is, you know, what are, like, you know, you're not just going to sort of take Borderlands and put it on VR. It's sort of like new, different experiences. Yeah. And you know, part of what I think all of you guys are saying is that there's so many opportunities out there. It's just, it's probably hard, you know, the hardest choices are sort of what not to do, because it's like there's so many things that you could do. And I'm sure, you know, Randy, where it's like everyone wants the next Borderlands, but it's like, well, we've got other things we're working on too. And it's like the choices of what to do and what not to do must be harder than ever before, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, you have to prioritize. That is the oldest problem that our species has faced, is that we can't realize and manifest everything that we can imagine as quickly as we can imagine it. And so the only solution to that problem is to make choices and to pick one thing and abandon another. Yeah. And that can be difficult if there's a part of our minds that loves the thing that must be abandoned and is afraid of the new frontier that should be embraced. But progress demands that we look forward. And the biggest and most exciting things that we're going to be doing in interactive entertainment in the future are things that we can't even conceive of today. And this will never get there unless we actually are comfortable taking some risks and trying things we haven't done before.
All right, well, that's a good note to end this segment on. Lots of inspiration. We'll be back next time with more in the bonus round right here on Game Trailers.